The air in the arena was stale. You know that feeling when a show has been running for 2 hours and the audience is trapped in a lull? It was the middle of the broadcast, the graveyard slot where energy goes to die. In the ring, the current champion stood tall, drowning in her own arrogance. She was listing her victims, reciting a script we had all heard 1,000 times before. The crowd wasn't booing. They were checking their phones. They were shuffling in their seats. The magic was gone. It felt like the industry had moved on, that the golden era of genuine surprise was a relic of the past. The champion laughed, a sharp, piercing sound that echoed off the half-empty rafters, claiming there was no one left to challenge her. No one left to climb the mountain. The commentary team, usually so full of hyperbole, sounded tired. They were selling a narrative that nobody was buying. But atmosphere is a funny thing. It changes before you consciously realize it. Just as the champion raised the belt, the ambient hum of the arena shifted. It wasn't a sound at first, it was a pressure drop. The air conditioning seemed to stop. The low murmur of the crowd vanished instantly, replaced by a confused, heavy silence. The lights didn't go out, they flickered. Once, twice, a warning. The camera operators lowered their lenses, looking away from the viewfinder. The referee in the background froze, looking toward the entrance ramp, not with excitement, but with genuine confusion. Something was wrong. The script had been thrown out. The boredom wasn't just broken, it was shattered by a sudden terrifying stillness. We weren't watching a show anymore. We were waiting for a collision. Then the sound hit. It wasn't music. It was a distorted, screeching feedback loop that tore through the PA system, followed immediately by a singular, recognizable chord that hadn't been heard in 4 years. The reaction wasn't a cheer. It was a roar, a guttural, primal release of energy that physically shook the hard cam. If you were watching at home, the audio feed peaked and crackled, unable to process the volume. No way, the ghost is here. The ghost is real. The ramp didn't explode with pyro. There were no fireworks, just a lone silhouette stepping out from the curtain. The minimalist animation shows her isolation, one small figure against a massive, screaming void. She didn't dance. She didn't play to the crowd. She just walked, a slow, predatory stride that ate up the distance to the ring. This wasn't a wrestler returning to work. This was a queen returning to an empty kingdom. The camera zoomed in on the fans in the front row. Grown men were clutching their heads. Children were jumping. But the most telling visual was the commentary team. They weren't sitting. They were standing, headsets ripped off, staring at the monitor with their mouths open. This wasn't in the rundown. Do you believe in miracles? Do you believe in ghosts? Because she is walking down that ramp and I don't think the champion can breathe. She stopped at the steel steps. She didn't look at the fans. Her eyes were locked on the ring. The atmosphere had shifted from curiosity to a dangerous, electric hysteria. The prosecution truck was scrambling, missing cuts, because the chaos was real. The heartbeat sound in the background accelerates, matching the pulse of millions watching around the world. She slid under the bottom rope. The movement was fluid, muscle memory taking over after years of dormancy. She stood up in the center of the ring. The size difference became apparent. She wasn't the biggest, but her presence was heavy. She carried the weight of history. The music cut. The silence that followed was louder than the cheering. It was the silence of anticipation. The current champion, who had been so brash 5 minutes ago, took a subconscious step back. That single step told the entire story. It was the difference between a rental and an owner. Neither of them held a microphone. They didn't need to. The storytelling here was purely physical. The returner looked at the title belt, then up to the champion's eyes. She didn't smile. There was no joy in this return, only business. It's a deep, unresolved grievance that had festered in the dark. Look at the eyes. That is not the look of a woman who came to talk. That is the look of a woman who came to collect a debt. The crowd began a chant, low at first, then thunderous. They were chanting her name, but it sounded like a war cry. The champion tried to sneer, tried to regain composure, but her hands were shaking. This is what cinematic wrestling is about. Not the moves, but the moments between the moves. The tension was stretched so thin it felt like a violin string about to snap. The returner finally moved. She didn't throw a punch. She simply reached out and brushed a speck of imaginary dust off the champion's shoulder. It was dismissive. It was insulting. It was perfect. The mind games had begun before the bell even rang. When the segment ended and the cameras cut to commercial, the real drama began. The script focuses now on the gorilla position, the area just behind the curtain. As she walked back through the entrance, the adrenaline dump hit. You could see the other wrestlers gathered around the monitors. This is the part the fans don't see: the fear. Every wrestler on that roster realized in that moment that their spot on the card, their time on TV, was suddenly in jeopardy. The ecosystem had been disrupted. An apex predator had been reintroduced to the wild, and the food chain was shifting. There were no high fives. The executives were frantic on their headsets, rewriting the next month of television on the fly. Security was rushing to keep fans from jumping the barricades. The returning legend walked past them all, a towel over her head, ignoring the applause from the producers. She found a quiet corner of the hallway and sat down on a crate. The mask of the character slipped for a second. We see a stickman representation of her trembling hands, not from fear, but from the overwhelming rush of the moment. The realization of what she had just done. She had promised herself she would never come back. She had sworn that part of her life was over. But the addiction to the roar, to the energy, was too strong. Her phone lit up on the bench beside her. Hundreds of messages. Family asking if she was okay. Friends asking why she didn't tell them. The isolation of the secret was gone, replaced by the chaos of the public eye. She was no longer a person. She was a headline again. Why do we love these moments? Why do we crave the return of the past? It's because wrestling, at its core, is a soap opera about time. It's about the refusal to let go. We cheered because she was back. We cheered because we thought we were getting our hero returned to us, preserved in amber, exactly as she was. But as the adrenaline fades and the arena empties, the uncomfortable truth settles in. She isn't the same, and neither are we. The twist wasn't in the return itself. The twist was revealed in a subtle post-show interview posted online hours later, when asked if she was back to reclaim the women's championship. She looked at the camera with hollow eyes and simply said, "No. She didn't come back to win the title. She came back to retire the champion. She came back to destroy the very thing she helped build because she saw what it had turned into." This wasn't a redemption arc. It was a demolition project. The fans wanted a savior, but they got a destroyer. The heartbeat sound returns, slow and final. The screen fades to black as the realization hits. This isn't going to be a happy ending. This is going to be a tragedy, and we are going to watch every single second of it.